Number 10. Wanted by everyone, and not in a good way. In Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, Batman is a wanted man as in for illegal activities, or things that people are deeming illegal then. I mean, technically if you're a vigilante, it's all pretty illegal. He's wanted not just by the police as well, but also by the government. With Superman also now in the president's pocket, this also means that Bruce is up against one of his best friends, Kal-El, also one of the most powerful superheroes in DC Comics. So there's that. It seems in Dark Knight Returns everyone is against old man Batman, even at times himself. Of course, that is what makes the story so good. One of our favorite things to read about when it comes to Batman comics usually is how Batman must struggle against the odds and overcome not only the adversity of everyone against him, but at times himself, or his old age as well in this case. It's hard getting older every day. Slowly moving towards death. It's fine. Number 9 made a massive mistake. I mean, this had to have hurt Bruce's ego, I imagine, at the very least. Following Batman having his back broken by Bane, snapped over Bane's knee like some twig, Batman was forced into a temporary retirement while he recovered. Who should he choose for his replacement while he was gone? But none other than Jean-Paul Valley. While this was thought to be an odd choice at the time, considering, you know, he'd been training Robins to, you'd think, eventually take over for him when needed, he had his reasons, which he would later on even explain at length. However, it turned out that picking Azrael to step into his shoes wasn't necessarily the best choice, considering that being Batman basically turned Azrael crazy and sent him down a pretty dark path for a good amount of time afterward. When Bruce returned, he along with Nightwing and Robin, who was Tim Drake at the time, were forced to confront Azrael and make him surrender the cape and cowl. Number 8. Contingencies used against him. During the Tower of Babel story arc, Batman had his many contingency plans used against him when Ra's al Ghul managed to get his hands on them. The ones Ra's was particularly focused on here were those that would allow him to disable the Justice League. Batman had a backup plan ready should any member of the League go rogue, keeping a file on each of them and devising a failsafe involving their weaknesses being used against them. Ra's enacts all of Batman's contingencies, nearly killing the Justice League, and manages to distract Batman long enough by using his parents' corpses as bait. Although the Justice League did manage to win the day against Ra's, this also created a lot of tension between Batman and the rest of the team, and resulted in him being voted off. Said that like it was like Survivor, he's getting voted off the island, the Justice League island. I would watch actually Justice League of America if it was like a reality Survivor show. That'd be cool. Someone write that down. Number 7. Dick Grayson quits. A lot of the depictions of Dick Grayson moving from the role of Robin to Nightwing are awesome, and even show a sense of maturity and progression when it comes to the relationship that Dick and Bruce have. However, Dick leaving the Robin mantle hasn't always been the most peaceful of resignations.
To tell you.
But it was your place to put her in danger.
It wasn't like that. I volunteered.
You think you did. You don't know him like I do. He manipulates.
In fact, in the Batman animated series, Dick outright quits being Robin and resigns with a punch straight to Batman's face.
Things change. I changed. The game's over, Batman. I quit.
Robin, wait.
It was like the weakest punch ever. Gotta really throw your body into it. Calling Batman out for being underhanded and manipulative when it comes to how he treats his proteges. Number 6. Fortune stolen. During one of the recent Batman events, Joker War, Batman had his entire fortune taken away from him. This obviously is a pretty intense blow to Bats and leaves him in not a great place. For Batman, a lot of what makes him Batman is his fortune. Or at least that's kind of what we've been led to believe. In the end, Batman comes out of this stronger, realizing despite being widely thought of as an iconic lone wolf, that it's really his Bat family and his allies that make him strong. That and, you know, all the skills he's worked to hone throughout the years. However, even after the events of Joker War, Batman still does not reclaim his fortune, choosing to leave it instead with Lucius Fox, who he says has earned it for his years of loyalty and service, and who also deserves it just for, well, everything he suffered in Joker War, let's be real. Lucius tells Bruce that he no longer wants to help him as Batman and says that if he wants to continue, basically he'll be going alone without even any financial support from Fox. This obviously changes a lot of what Batman should be capable of in the future and should also create even more challenges and adversity for him moving forward. Number 5. Omega beams to the face! Well, to the whole thing really. not just to the face. Although this didn't end up actually killing Batman at the time, we thought it had, and it was pretty intense. Let's also acknowledge as well what came before the moment Darkseid let loose on those Omega beams. Batman ended up being taken and tortured by Darkseid, refusing to break before they had their face off. When they did, it was because Batman had the one weapon that was known to be capable of defeating Darkseid, a gun loaded with a lethal radion bullet. He coolly explains to Darkseid why he's prepared to break his moral code and kill him before firing, knowing that Darkseid would definitely obliterate him with Omega beams, which he did, but not before Batman would be able to fire off that deadly shot, which he also did. While we thought the Omega beams had killed Batman, they actually sent him back to the past, but at the time, readers had thought they just witnessed a pretty gnarly Batman death. We won't talk about the past stuff because that's pretty weird, so we'll just leave that alone. Sweep that under the comic book rug. Number 4. Torture of Tim Drake. I've said it once and I'll say it again. If you want to hurt Batman, the best place to start is by hurting those that he cares for, especially considering how hard it is to actually hurt the Bat himself. He's literally spent years training his mind, his body, and his spirit to prevent anyone from being able to do so after all. Unfortunately, his proteges don't have as much experience, which tends to make them a little more vulnerable. Even the ones who are considered to have a mind to rival even Bruce's, like Tim Drake. Granted, the animated version of Tim Drake, which is the version here who suffered, was more of a combination of both Jason Todd and Tim Drake when it came to the character's personality and appearance. The animated version of Tim Drake ended up tortured non-stop for days on end after being kidnapped by Harley Quinn and the Joker. After they had gotten everything they wanted out of him, they didn't stop there either. The Joker and Harley then decided to brainwash him into becoming a mini Joker, rebranding Tim as their son, Joker Jr. It sounds adorable, but it's not. Number 3. Death of Spoiler. I don't think this one was just hard for Batman actually, but a lot of Batman fans out there besides. Especially those who are also hardcore fans of New Robin, aka Spoiler, aka Stephanie Brown. Many fans hated how Stephanie went here, though fortunately since then we have seen Stephanie return and basically seen her history rewritten, so at least there is a little sense of redemption for a character there. Yay! Stephanie Brown as Spoiler was captured by Black Mask during the events of War Games, and was then tortured to the brink of her breaking point. While Black Mask's main aim was information, and a little fun I assume. He does tend to enjoy his torture sessions, cause he's completely crazy like that. This all happened because Stephanie attempted to initiate one of Batman's contingency plans involving Matches Malone during Batman's absence, not knowing that Malone was actually Batman himself. Oops. Stephanie managed to escape but was unable to bring herself to kill Black Mask despite all he'd done to her. In the end, Stephanie got away, but at the cost of her own life after Black Mask gained the upper hand, shot her in the back, and then pushed her down a flight of stairs before letting her go. She died as a result of her injuries, which I don't think is a surprise considering all that stuff that happened. I'm traumatized just thinking about it. Number 2. Loss of his family. For this point, we're moving over to Flashpoint Batman, who honestly I think has it even worse off than Bruce to start. In the Flashpoint continuity, it's Thomas, Bruce's father, who ends up as Batman after the death of his son Bruce, during an alleyway robbery gone wrong. That's right, it's Bruce that dies here instead of his parents. Not only that, but after Bruce's death, Thomas's wife Martha is driven insane by the loss of her son, not able to move past her son's death and recover. Instead, she ends up giving herself a Glasgow smile in response to a comment Thomas made about missing her smile. Aww. And goes on to become his nemesis, the Joker. When Martha learns of an alternate reality where Bruce lives on to become Batman, and where his one true nemesis is the person she herself has now become, she cannot live with herself and she takes her own life. The whole thing is pretty bleak, and Thomas has to do his best to deal with all this while trying to fight crime, make his Gotham better, and help Wally West to basically fix the universe. Number 1. Death of Damian Wayne. On part 1 of this list we talked about the death of another Robin, Jason Todd. And while all of Batman's Robins usually end up being like surrogate sons to Bruce, and I'm sure in his mind are all equal, I don't think he was ever prepared for his biological son to perish like Jason had. But maybe worse? I don't know. Honestly, dying in an even more twisted twisty way, at least in my opinion, than Jason. Damian was killed by the Heretic after being caught up in a massive fight with Leviathan goons. The really tragic thing was that right before his death, the story also paid some tribute to Damian's growth, with him and Nightwing kind of sharing a brotherly moment before he is forced to face off with the Heretic and dies as a result. Oh yeah, also after he's like, I promised my dad I wouldn't kill anymore. Ah! Batman arrives too late to the scene where Damian already lays dead. The crazy part is the Heretic would turn out to be a clone of Damian, and this would all end up being part of a plot engineered by none other than Talia al Ghul, and more prominently, her father, Ra's. Number 10 was tricked into making out with Ra's al Ghul. In the Batman Beyond series, Ra's ends up having to face mortality and jump ship when it comes to his body, when it becomes so broken that the Lazarus pits can no longer heal him. He decides to take Talia's body for his own. Not content with being in the body of his daughter, a woman, he comes up with a plot to get Bruce's old body, which he then plans to make young again using the Lazarus pits. This plan involves Ra's posing as Talia in order to seduce an elderly Bruce Wayne, making him believe that Talia has found the secret to youth and wants to share it with Bruce so they can be together. Oh, how sweet. This plan also ends up involving Ra's and Talia's body though making out with Bruce, which was not something that Bruce signed up for, especially when he finds out, wait a minute, so when I was kissing Talia, I was kissing her dad? Ew. What? What? So crazy. Number 9. Losing his fortune. While we haven't explored the full ramifications of this blow yet, it's likely going to end up being a doozy. Everything that Batman has become was all because of his fortune, and over the years and Tynion's run, he's also become more and more reliable on his utility belt and his fancy gadgets. Batman might just be a man, but his billions have backed him up time and time again, acting as a stand-in often for his lack of superpowers. So what happens when Batman loses all that? In Joker War, Batman was targeted by the Joker and his new number 1, Punchline. He lost his money and for a while his sanity thanks to Punchline's specially formulated Joker venom. TM. This made it hard for Batman to regain control of Gotham, but not impossible. In the end, he realized he needed help and reached out to the Bat family, who helped him regain the city. After Joker was defeated, Bruce decided to let Lucius Fox keep the money as a consolation and a reward for all the years of hard work, as well as, some payment for his time being tortured at the hands of Punchline and the Joker, which was pretty terrible. Honestly, Lucius, you deserve that money. Lucius accepted this offer but told Bruce he wanted no more part of helping him with Batman. Lucius Fox was opting out of that crazy world, so if Bruce wanted to continue, he was on his own. No millions and none of Fox's fancy tech. It'll be interesting to see how much this sets Batman back and how he fights to overcome this challenge. Before we move on, just a quick reminder to click that like and smash that subscribe if you haven't already. Go on, do it, and let me welcome you to the top 10 nerd family! Welcome, 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 confetti balloons. Number 8. Bane breaks Batman. This is a pretty terrible one, and yet it's not even the worst point, especially considering Batman did eventually heal and return from this. In Nightfall, we see Batman faced with multiple villains in one night. He's run down and tired, which is when Bane strikes, attempting to take Gotham from the Bat. In an iconic and devastatingly memorable moment, Bane breaks Batman's back, ultimately destroying him. Fortunately, Bruce would recover and return as Batman, but he would need someone to take over for a time. That someone ended up being Azrael Jean-Paul Valley, and passing that mantle on would also lead to some other problems later on for Bats. Number 7. Assaulted by Talia al Ghul. Talia al Ghul may love Batman, but she definitely has a messed up way of showing it. When Damian was conceived, it was not really out of love. Talia actually assaulted Bruce, drugging him and sleeping with him in order to get the child she so desired. All in all, it's really messed up. What's even more strange is it seems like the story of Damian's existence could have been inspired by Son of the Demon, where Talia and Bruce consummate their marriage consensually and Talia reveals she is with child. She later fakes a miscarriage to keep Batman focused on fighting the bad guys and avoid distracting him, but in truth has the child in secret and gives it up for adoption, realizing she and Batman can never truly be together. This story, while still messed up and awful considering Bruce, never knows of his son's fate and it's kept a secret, is still less disturbing than the one we got for Damian Wayne. Drugging and assaulting someone is very much not okay. No, no, no. Don't do it. It's terrible. Number 6. Death of his fiancée. For those who aren't aware, there was a time that Batman was engaged. In fact, there have been multiple occasions where Batman was engaged and married. For our purposes here though, I'm talking about when Bruce Wayne became engaged to his old flame, Silver St. Cloud. Silver has been a Gotham socialite who had a passionate romance that initially ended when Silver learned of the fact that Bruce Wayne was actually Batman. She loved Bruce but couldn't stand the thought of losing him. Years later, she returned to Gotham and ended up falling back in love with both Bruce Wayne and Batman, breaking off her current engagement to a US senator. Her and Bruce were engaged, and he was even thinking of retiring from the Batman mantle to pursue a normal life with Silver and settle down with her. However, these dreams were cut short when Silver was killed by Automatopoeia, who was posing as Batman's new ally at the time, Baphomet, a man that Batman trusted so much that he even revealed his secret identity to him and welcomed him into the Batcave. Big mistake, Bruce. No wonder Batman has trust issues, jeez. Number 5. Failed Barbara Gordon. One of the hardest failings for Batman was when Barbara Gordon and her father, Commissioner Gordon, were successfully targeted by the Joker. Caught unawares, Babs found herself shot through the spine and paralyzed as a result of the attack. She was assaulted and tormented by the Joker, who took pictures of her in pain and undressed for the purpose of making her father insane. This all happened in Killing Joke, and though not all of the events of that story are canon, Babs' pain and becoming paralyzed were made canon. Batman has always felt awful for what happened to Barbara, has never really blamed her, and if anything, himself feels more guilty for the fact that he wasn't able to protect her. Number 4. Death of Jason Todd. The loss of Jason Todd hit Batman hard, and who is to blame? Those who voted for him to be killed. It's your fault. Well, actually, it might not be your fault. You might have not been alive, or you may have not voted. Anyways, some people don't even believe the vote was real still, that it's all a conspiracy. And yet, I digress. Why this was so hard for Batman was because Jason Todd, of course, was both his ward and his Robin. Though the two had a falling out previously, Batman ended up teaming up with Todd once more to help him find his birth mother. Although they found her, it was revealed that she was involved in a plot with the Joker, which ended up resulting in both her and Jason's death. Batman would never forgive himself for what happened to Jason, and when Jason returned from death, it was made evident that Jason likely wouldn't ever be able to fully forgive Batman either. He's like, I died because of you, because you didn't save me. Which, you didn't save him, so I guess sort of fair. Number 3. Death of his parents. Obviously, one of the worst things to happen to Bruce Wayne happened early in his life and would have to be the death of his parents. Without them dying, he wouldn't be the man he is today, for better or for worse. It's actually an interesting thing to imagine a world where Bruce gets to keep his parents and grows up normally. Would he still grow up normally? I wonder. The death of his parents tormented young Bruce so much that it, along with the freak encounter with the bat, inspired him to become the masked vigilante known as Batman. So in a way, it's this trauma that has led to so much of the other awful experiences that Batman has suffered through, countless physical injuries, as well as mental and emotional turmoil. Not only that, but the loss of his parents has been a trauma that Batman has never healed from and has carried throughout his entire life. Number 2. Death of Alfred. Although his parents' death changed him forever, he was left with at least one father figure to help him carry on, the faithful family butler, Alfred Pennyworth. Alfred served Master Bruce, but also took care of him and raised him, acting as a father to him. Alfred has come in harm's way a few times in the comics, but one of the most devastating blows that both he and Master Bruce had to suffer came when Bane full-on killed Alfred, snapping his neck. Bane was working to break Bruce fully, and this was just another part of his master plan. He even was part of Catwoman kinda leaving him at the altar, which is another terrible thing that happened here. Bane had taken Alfred hostage and told the Bat family to stay away or else. Damian, however, didn't listen, believing he could take Bane down himself. When Damian failed, Bane killed Alfred, and in so doing, broke Bruce's heart. Number 1. Tortured and killed on repeat. When Joker received 99.9% of Mr. Mixia's Pitilix power, he used it to wreak all kinds of havoc. One of the things he used these new epic reality warping powers for was to torment Batman forever on repeat. Daily, Emperor Joker would torture and kill Batman, although in the end Batman was the key to Joker's defeat, being Joker's one true weakness, since his identity was so closely tied to Batman's. However, Batman was left so traumatized by these events that he became a broken man, a shadow of his former self, unable to operate as a hero. Superman actually had to steal the memories of this experience away in order to return Batman to himself once more so he could resume being a hero and just, not being a complete mess. Wow, yes, so Batman has lost all of that and more over the years, though he often has a tendency to gain back those things he's lost and heal from his past traumas. There are some losses and scars that remain with him to this day, shaping him into the hero and the man he has become.
Kicking off the list at number 10, we have the zebra print suit. So ever since those party rock guys started shuffling around town, we've seen a lot of teens rocking the zebra print look. And while it might be a nice way to draw attention to your legs and maybe your fresh new clean white Vans, it's not the best look for, say, I don't know, a bat suit. So yeah, back in 1960 we got the pleasure of meeting Zebra Man, who's a villain that uses magnetic lines of force after he created a device that granted him these magnetic powers. So Batman and Robin both got a close-up look at this machine, and maybe Batman got a little bit too close because his suit and skin turned into the same zebra stripes that we saw. So now we have Zebra Batman. The only difference was he didn't have the belt that Zebra Man used, so he wasn't able to control said new powers. And it just looked, well, you know how it looks. And before we go on to number 9, if you guys could go ahead and smash that like button right down below because it helps us out quite a lot here in the studio. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being fans. Now let's get back to some Batman suits. Number 9, 1940s serial Batsuit. So the first ever live action Batman was played by an actor named Lewis Wilson back in 1943. And he was part of this 15-chapter serial from Columbia Pictures and included Douglas Croft as Robin as well. And I'll get into the suit design in just a sec, but let's just talk about the storyline first. I mean, we have the Batman during World War II, and he's trying to take down Agent Dr. Dacca and put an end to his plans. See, this was right after the attack on Pearl Harbor, and Dr. Dacca was operating a sabotage ring in Gotham City. So naturally, it's time to suit up. Now fans look back at the costume design and cringe. I mean, nowadays everything is so sleek and military, so when you see this, it comes off as a little silly. I mean, the arms and legs are baggy. It looks like a bat suit your uncle pulls out every Halloween. You know, the same one he's had for like 50 years. And the belt too? Dude, how the hell are you sneaking up on some crooks when you're literally wearing a disco ball for a belt? You'll blind them before anything. They won't even see you coming. They won't have eyes left. What does it for me personally is the uneven bat ears. It looks like a Great Dane when its ears are taped up when it's young. Number 8, Sir William. This one comes straight from Earth 9, and DC says that this universe still exists, which is pretty neat. So basically the idea was in 1997, DC Comics launched Tangent Comics, which was a new take on our hero's origins. We all love those. So as you guessed from the name Sir William, this Batman was fresh out of the Arthurian times. Sir William was a knight of King Arthur's Round Table who had to pay for some previous faults. See, Morgan Le Fay seduced him and convinced him to fight King Arthur using her magic. So, not a nice guy. He's actually probably great, I don't know. So he was confined to his own castle, which as far as groundings go, not that bad. I mean, I never got to hang out in Castle Bat when I got grounded growing up, so what the hell is this? Sir William discovered that he had the ability to project his spirit into his armor and have it walk free. Kind of like the pair of pants from Disney's Onward, you know, the pants that just walk around? It's kind of like that, except less sad. And as far as Batsuit designs go, this one is just messy. I mean, the spikes on the shoulders are just covering your blind spots, not to mention the added weight, the Mohawk helmet as well. I mean, I think it's gonna be a no from me in terms of design. But he's mastered sword fighting, okay? I'll give him that. He can sword fight, that's pretty cool. We all love swords. Number 7, Azrael. Better known as Jean-Paul Valley, he is a vigilante who resided in Gotham City. See, after Bane broke Batman's back, he took on the mantle in the Nightfall story arc. See, Jean-Paul was able to defeat Bane when he stepped up to the bat. Pun intended. And he replaced the Caped Crusader. But in doing so, he made more than a few changes to the suit. Technical changes, but also, of course, design. So the final product had him looking like a cross between Batman and like an Autobot. He has the blue and yellow metallic armor, which looks like a hot mess already. And on top of it, he even added other gadgets in, like he added claws, dual mag weapons, and of course, a cape that definitely does not work in terms of aviation. That's not gonna fly. That's literally not gonna fly. Sure, he made the Nightfall story arc interesting, but if we're looking at just suits here, this takes the cake easily on this list. Number 6. Oh yeah. Number 6, Batman Forever. Of course, on a list about Batsuits, we must bring up the suit that changed our childhoods forever. The one with the bat nipples. Sounds like a Friends episode that didn't make it. The late Joel Schumacher did Batman Forever in 1995, and Val Kilmer was a pretty fun Batman. Jim Carrey was a pretty fun Riddler. Tommy Lee Jones was... It was the 90s, okay? It was weird. The weirdest detail of this version of Batman's suit has to be this. I mean, we don't need nipples on the suit. We just don't need them. We don't at all. Even if they did somehow help with chafing, they would have to be perfectly lined up all day. I would be fixing that every 15 seconds. He said he sent costume maker Jose Fernandez photos of Greek statues and opted for more of an anatomical look, hence the, shredded abs. And then when he saw the nipples on the suit, he thought, that's cool. Those right there, those some cool nipples. And he's still glad that he did it to this day. Well, so are we, because now we can talk about it some more in this lovely list. Number 5, Batman and Robin. Another late Schumacher film. Okay, another suit to talk about. It's kind of hard not to talk about the costume details when it shows all the details very close up. I mean, some of the shots we get here, I swear I can smell the fabric. Like, imagine if 3D was this advanced back then. Oh my god. You'd look in your popcorn and find Robin's ass. You're like, how did this get here? The suits changed from Michael Keaton's version, yet somehow they got worse? It got worse. So now George Clooney was rocking this hard plastic nipply looking suit, and even better, Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl and Chris O'Donnell as Robin sported the same design near the end of the film. Just in case, one new suit wasn't enough. I get it, I mean the new suits are supposed to prevent against frost damage, all that jazz, but how much damage protection do we need down there, guys? I mean, I know you're George Clooney and all, but like, that's a lot of armor for, Number 4, Jim Gordon. So after the events of Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's Endgame storyline, we found a new home for the Batman cowl. This time around, it belongs to former police commissioner Jim Gordon. See, his initial Batsuit is actually pretty neat. It complements his lanky body, the all black look with the dark yellow outlines, and no cape. Thank God, I'd rather have Batman with no cape than a cape that looks like it got shredded by a velociraptor. Any day. I'm a fan of his entire look here, okay? Now, if we did a list of the best Batman suits, I would for sure throw this one on there. Now, unfortunately, he also has this military suit that he uses over top of that already existing cool one. They purposely designed it so it wouldn't look like Iron Man, and that worked. I mean, mostly. So the powerful armor got the job done, but it looked clunky. It didn't look nice. Fans didn't like the giant bunny ears, and they could for sure go without the War Machine type missile shoulder pads. Great storyline again, but seeing him disappear into that armor brought a frown to my face every time I turned the page. Number 3, all of the colors. So in 1937, issue 241 of Detective Comics, we find Batman on the cover with quite the dilemma. It's a dilemma we're all probably used to by now. He changes up the colors of his costume quite a few times in here, but why? Maybe he wore a similar color the day before, or hey, maybe on Wednesdays he wears pink. You never know. Or maybe this has something to do with the Comics Code Authority. See, in order to appeal to the public eye that comics weren't just this dark and gritty thing, they tried to change up his outfit a few times to keep it fun. Hey, it's pink now, look, we're having fun. So in this issue, we have Robin hurting his arm, but we also have Batman sporting some fun new colorful suits. Eventually, just putting all the colors together and rocking the infamous rainbow suit, which I'm a fan of. If you can't pick one color, pick them all. Let's go. The only reason I have to include the rainbow suit on a list about the worst Batman suits is because it hurts your eyes to look at no matter what page it's on. See, some sequences show Batman punching a criminal and the yellow background blends in with the yellow part of his costume. Same goes for any background color really. Like, if I was standing here in front of a green screen with all the colors on, green would just be really hard to focus on. It would blend in with the background. It's why we don't wear green in any videos, because it looks like that in the background. So the rainbow outfit was thought to be left in the late 50s, but it made a fashionable return in Francis Manipal's Trinity issue 1. Number 2, Stan Lee's Batman. The late Stan Lee had his take on the Caped Crusader back in 2001, and DC Comics asked him to reimagine all their famous heroes as if he had done it himself, which sounds like a pretty exciting event. So we came up with Wayne Williams, a cross between Luke Cage and, of course, Bruce Wayne. And we see these in action in Just Imagine Volume 1. So he was committed of a crime he didn't do, and then learned a few skills in the slammer while he was serving. And then when he was released, he first made a costume and tried to make some money wrestling. Okay, sounds familiar. Homemade costume, some wrestling. If you're into a Batman that looks more like an actual bat, this is a great place to go. And finally, number 1, Bat Baby. Issue 147 of Batman, right on the cover, we see regular size Robin rocking a regular size Robin outfit, and then we see a Bat Baby with a Bat Baby suit to complete the picture. Look out, it's Bat Baby and Robin? Question mark? That's what a bystander is shouting right on the front cover and all. So what's going on here? Why is Batman wearing jean short overalls? Why is he a baby? Also, why is he a child? Turns out Nails Finney brought them into a trap, and now Batman has shrunk down to the size of a small child. Little baby. What's even better about this whole ordeal is that he still has the strength of a full-grown Batman. So he can kick your ass. He's just tiny. And the headlines were amazing in the news that week. Even in the comic, it says, Gangland turns Batman into baby. And then the photo is just Batman all moody standing there like, I don't know why he's moody, like he's still the same Batman, he's just small. Actually, you know what? I do know why he's moody. He's an infant. So Robin at one point even has to carry Batman to the Batmobiles, like carry him, because his little fat baby legs can't get him around so fast. So what does Batman do? He embraces it. He's like, fine, I'll dress like a baby. That's what you want, that's what you get. And he does well, or he does okay, rather. Yeah, one of the headlines that you see next reads, Bat Baby does okay for a kid. I mean, he's okay. He just rode a balloon up into the air and then took out 3 criminals as a baby, but definitely just okay, A-okay. The only soft spot on this Batman is the one on the top of his head. Kicking off the list at number 10, Sad Space Worms. World's Finest Comics issue 289. We see Batman and Superman as they decide to catch up on some bro time. You know, take a break from beating dudes up all day, you know, just talk it out. I mean, the dialogue itself is really great stuff. It highlights the mental health struggles superheroes go through, not being able to save everybody. It's meaningful, it's powerful dialogue. It's just Superman and Batman talking alone in the Fortress of Solitude. But what takes this issue to new heights, well, rather to new lows, is when Superman and Batman are interrupted by a meteorite crashing, and out of the meteorite emerges the crew. The crew being depressed space worms. Yep, they're attracted to sadness. That's actually how they found the two in the first place, because their super depression was just glowing. So these aliens need emotion to die. I mean, why didn't you guys just say so? I got the Titanic, I got Notebook on DVD, let's go. You guys will be gone in seconds, no problem. And before we move on, guys, make sure if you haven't already, just toss us a quick thumbs up because it goes a long way here at our Fortress of Solitude. Thank you so much. Thanks. And number 9, we have Cat Fur Woman. Selena Kyle looked a bit different from the start, to say the least. We've seen numerous actors play the iconic Jewel Thief, with Zoe Kravitz playing her in the upcoming Robert Pattinson Batman. It's only fair to look back at her not so neat outfits. Well, in the first issue she appeared in, that being Batman 1 back in the 1940s, she was actually referred to as the Cat, rightfully so. Now, at this time her outfit looked a touch different. In Batman 3, she came out in this red cape, yellow dress, and fur mask. It looked weird. To think of the character as we know her now, and then to see her in this outfit, it kind of reminds me of in Harry Potter when Snape looks like Neville's grandmother. It wasn't until 1946 until her mask was changed to a more fitting look. Still not quite what we're used to, but definitely a step in the right direction. And then of course in the 50s she was deemed more of a sidekick to Batman rather than a villain, sporting a much cooler, less hairier look. And number 8, the Unstoppable Riddler. Usually when Batman punches you in the face, it kinda hurts. But if we look back at Edward Nygma in the Silver Age of comics, specifically in Batman 171, the Riddler is setting booby traps left, right, and center, but when it comes down to the Batman making contact with the skin, he laughs. Is this the Joker or Riddler? What's going on here? Well, it turns out if you get some local anesthetic, punches to the face don't feel as bad. You don't say. Even on the cover of this issue, Batman and Robin are both surprised. What's keeping the Riddler up? He takes our hardest knockout blows and bounces right back. But how? And number 7, Batman the Witch. Released in 1969, issue 186 of the World's Finest, we find Batman in quite the pickle. So Superman and Batman at this point have traveled back in time to solve a mystery. Classic good old time travel fun. Wonder where the comics will take us today. So they go back in time, and during their mission, they rescue a lady named Sylvia Ward. Now Sylvia was actually accused of witchcraft. Yeah, they went way back. So Superman and Batman save her, and then she thanks Batman by kissing him. Oh, super emotional, very nice. Right on the lips. Intimate, cool. And then Superman goes in to introduce himself, and Batman interrupts and takes her to the local bar. Okay. So Superman decides to use this era in his favor. So he dresses up as Batman, starts doing all this wacky stuff, doing all this witchcraft stuff. So much so that the town deems Batman a witch. He's about to be burned at the stake, and then a thunderstorm rolls in. Everybody leaves except for, Ben Franklin, who's just hanging out, doing tests and stuff. He's just there. That's fine. Just playing with kites, checking out lightning, doing his Ben Franklin stuff. He actually tries to free Batman with one of his experiments, but Superman doesn't let that happen. He stops the electrical current from reaching him with his Superman hands. Even Ben Franklin's like, alright, I'm gonna head out. So when Batman asks Superman why he's doing this, Superman says, figure it out yourself. Damn. So next time your friends start flirting with your crush, just, tell everybody in town that they're a witch. They'll handle them. Works every time. And number 6, the rainbow costume. Sometimes it's tough picking an outfit for the night. Maybe you wore something similar right before. The whole thing is just stressful sometimes. And yes, that includes superheroes. In 1937, issue 241 of Detective Comics, we find Batman on the cover with quite the dilemma. He changes up the colors of his costume a lot in here, but why? Well, this has to do with the Comics Code Authority. So in order to appeal to the public eye that comics weren't just dark and gritty, So this issue about Robin hurting his arm also happened to have Batman sporting some fun new colorful suits. Eventually just putting them all together and rocking the infamous rainbow suit, which is sick. He's like, what do you think about red? No? What do you think about green? Huh? Is fade green? I don't know. It's pretty neat to see on the page, but unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna get any crazy colorful suits on the big screen anytime soon. And number 5. Whale problems. So imagine you're Bruce Wayne, right? You're on a massive yacht, blasting some Dixie chicks. You're living it up, you're having a great time. Maybe you're showing off your fancy $6 million necklace. And then out of nowhere, a whale woman just blasts in and grabs it from you. We find this scenario in Batman 579. Bruce Wayne is, well, of course, shocked. He's like, excuse me, Miss Whale, can you return this gem to me? That would be great. Awesome, thanks a plenty. Now, of course, the whale doesn't cooperate, so Bruce heads to Gotham Aquarium to ask some questions. He meets Grace, a woman bound to a wheelchair who works at the aquarium. She gives the whole rundown on the orcas, how they fight other whales 3 times the size of themselves, and how she's working on a research project with orcas. But the funding ain't going so well. So of course you probably just figured out what's happening. She spends her time robbing from the rich, and instead of keeping the wealth for herself, she just donates it to charities. What a sweetheart. Not a bad gig at all. She ends up becoming an orca forever. God, that would suck. But don't worry, it doesn't last too long. Because in Detective Comics 819, she's killed by the great white shark. And number 4, the Bat Baby. Issue 147 of Batman has one of the funniest pages on a comic book title page. So we have Robin, just regular old Robin, and a baby sporting the mask and the cowl. And the businessman on the cover says, look out, it's Batman and Robin. Like, he even stutters too. He's like, it's Batman, I think. That's definitely Robin, but is it the baby? The Batman baby? And the weirdest part, he still has all the abilities of a full-grown Batman. So it turns out Nails Finney brought them into a trap, and now Batman has shrunk down to the size of a child. So the headlines were amazing in the news that week. Gangland turns Batman into baby, and the photo is just Batman just like, all moody, like at least smile or like put a thumbs up, throw a batarang, a little baby batarang. Robin at one point even has to carry him to the Batmobile. So what does Batman do? He embraces it, of course. He's like, fine, I'll dress like a baby, I'll become Bat Baby, I'll kick your ass. He does well though, or sorry, he does okay, rather, yeah. One of the headlines that you see next reads, Bat Baby does okay for a kid. Yeah, he's okay. He just rode a balloon up into the air and then fought 3 crooks as a baby, but he did okay, guys, it was okay. Don't get that too high, he's fine. Yeah, he had to ride a balloon up because his legs were too small. I don't think we'll ever get this comic on the big screen, but you know what? I'll do it. If I get money, I'll do it myself. I'll hire my cousin, he's like 4, let's do it. And number 3, Zebra Man. We talked a bit about costume changes earlier, but that's not the end of it. Whenever a popular character changes their outfits, fans aren't usually fond of the change. It's not bad, it's just different, So in Detective Comics 275, we meet the villain Zebra Man, who obtained his powers by discovering the lines of force. And no, I don't mean the same lines of force as Snowflame. I mean these lines of force, yeah. So Batman becomes this after Robin accidentally shot this ray at him. Now, nobody can go near him, or else the new force field Zebra power will blast them back. He actually gets pretty sad about it too. Now, of course, things go back to normal, but the whole Batman Zebra power idea, it's a little too weird for some, and I don't blame them. And number 2, Bat-Mite. Of course, I have to include the 1937 Detective Comics issue 267 because we meet Batmite. Right from the start, the opening line of this dude is just ridiculous. He's like, hey, I'm not an elf. I come from another dimension to help you fight. What would that be? Fun? Huh? This wasn't really loved by the readers, I mean, of course. So in 1985, after Crisis on Infinite Earths, there wasn't really a rush to bring Batmite back. And lastly on our list, we have Bear vs. Bat. Yeah, you heard me. This was issue 285 of Batman, and I mean, just look at the front page illustration. How do you not want to see how this ends? Well, this is quite the holly jolly issue, as it takes place, of course, during the annual Gotham tree lighting ceremony. And after Batman hears on the police radio that the tree is in flames, he rushes over to investigate, and then this is where he discovers a bear is actually living in this tree. Nice. Now, of course, it's a Batman villain version of a bear. It's not Winnie the Pooh, you know, it's kind of scary. So now Animal Control comes in and safely removes said bear so that everyone can just enjoy the night and be happy and move on. No, that didn't happen at all. Batman actually comes in and decides, you know what, I'm just gonna kick this thing in the neck a few times, see what happens. I mean, I love animals personally, but if an evil bear threw hands with Bruce Wayne, I'm sorry, I gotta take my phone out, we're filming. I'll do it this way, not even this way. I'll give it some respect, you know? The sideways filming.
Number 10, Shadowhawk. Shadowhawk has a lot of similarities to Batman, and of course, you know, some differences. His look is slightly based off of him, as you can tell, and the whole fact that he's this kind of dark, brooding vigilante, and that he was created around the time trying to bring people in that liked Batman. Although, he is a lot darker than Batman in certain ways. Like, Batman doesn't really like killing, you know, depending on who's writing him, but Shadowhawk will, and he will even leave certain people paralyzed. Yeah, he is pretty different in certain ways. But overall, you can tell that there was at least some inspiration behind it. Number 9, Confessor. Confessor is a vigilante from Astro City. Now, he is a priest, and I mean, he even has a sidekick, Altar Boy. Astro City is known to take certain elements from other heroes and make them their own. The other big one being Samaritan, which was their take on Superman, which I talked a bit more in the last video. Now, Samaritan is a lot closer to Superman than Confessor is to Batman, but Confessor has been known to have some and is the main vigilante of that universe. I mean, he is even known as their main kind of detective vigilante. But he has had some great comics over the years that have been really well reviewed, and he's gradually been more and more drawn away from the Batman parallels. Number 8, Midnighter. While his costume and some aspects of him immediately scream Batman, Midnighter has been lucky enough to continue to evolve and become his own hero. I mean, for one, he has powers, and he is openly gay and has been married to his husband for a very long time, which shows how progressive this series is. Now, I feel like the trend on this list is to take aspects of Batman and get them to get people interested and then slowly make them their own. And usually it actually works pretty well, which we see here with Midnighter. I mean, he also really enjoys violence and fighting, which is not really Batman. Like, he likes beating up people, so that's kind of another difference. Number 7, Nighthawk. Nighthawk, also known as Kyle Richmond, was a millionaire playboy who decided to become a vigilante. Does that sound familiar? Well, he did start out as a villain, kind of. He eventually became more of a hero and even joined a number of Marvel teams. His parents both died, but not at the same time, and not because just someone randomly killed them. But he inherited their money and first started out spending it and kind of being that typical millionaire playboy until he changed his tune. Now he has become a popular character in his own right, and as you can see, he was clearly inspired by Batman, and just shows how popular Batman was that all of these heroes just kept popping up, trying to replicate his success. Number 6, Night Owl. Watchmen is one of the most celebrated graphic novels of all time, and has spawned a feature film, which got a mixed response, but also a TV sequel on HBO, which everyone seemed to really love. Now, I'm not bashing Watchmen, and no character is a direct ripoff of Batman, but there are a couple of characters that are similar to Batman in the comic. The first one is Night Owl. Right off the bat, pun intended, is his costume. They are pretty similar, plus he has a ton of gadgets and even has the owl ship. He is this rich guy who decided to take on the vigilante lifestyle. I mean, there are a lot of similarities, but he still does things that make him slightly different. Number 5, Rorschach. So I've talked about Night Owl, now let's talk about Rorschach, who is arguably the most popular from the Watchmen comic. While of course he's not exactly like Batman, the tone of the character is very much in line with him. He is this dark, brooding vigilante that doesn't take no for an answer. And yeah, he does some crazy things, but I mean, so does Batman in certain films and comics. Rorschach is not the exact same, but he was inspired by the Cape Crusader, and that really worked to his advantage. Number 4, Moon Knight. Moon Knight is a character that is no doubt going to become so much more popular soon. He is getting his own Disney Plus show and is going to join the MCU, which has fans very excited. Like a lot of other characters on this list, Moon Knight has evolved as he's gone along, but there are of course, some parallels to Batman. Now, Moon Knight is fairly supernatural in nature, and of course, is known to go a little bit crazy every now and then. But both their alter egos are rich guys who are now using, what they have to become vigilantes and hunt down those who are evil. Although sometimes Moon Knight is, as I mentioned earlier, goes crazy and kind of becomes a villain, but hey, Batman has done some crazy things too. But Moon Knight did take cues from Batman and has since become his own thing, and now a lot more people will see exactly what that means. Number 3, Big Daddy. While there are similarities in both the comic and movie version of Kick-Ass, it was the film that really made Big Daddy more like Batman. The most obvious thing was his costume. It seems like it was very much inspired by the Dark Knight trilogy. But that was kind of the point. Big Daddy was supposed to be this big-time vigilante that took on crime. I mean, he kills, which Batman usually doesn't, but all of it was very much intentional on Matthew Vaughn's part. I mean, hey, it gave Nick Cage a chance to flex his superhero muscles outside of the Ghost Rider franchise, and fun fact, he almost played Superman as well. In the failed Superman film, Superman Lives. He even had a costume and everything. You can check that out online if you're curious. Number 2, Daredevil. Daredevil, the man without fear. Now, he is not an outright copy of Batman, but certain writers have admitted to taking certain Batman elements and adding them to Daredevil later on. Overall, though, he has very much become his own hero. I mean, the obvious parallel is that they're both vigilantes and fight crime and strike fear into the hearts of criminals. I guess when Daredevil started, he fought more in the daylight and wasn't really a full-fledged vigilante, but later on it changed to making him come out more at night, and that's when the comparison started. But overall, Matt Murdock is pretty different. For one, he has powers. 2, he's not this rich playboy. And 3, he's a lawyer. While he may have taken a few tricks from Batman, Daredevil has since become his own hero and is one of the most popular Marvel ones for that matter. Number 1, Green Arrow. Yes, while Oliver Queen has evolved and become his own thing, he did start off as a Batman copy. I mean, he was a billionaire playboy vigilante. He had an arrow cave, an arrow car, and an aeroplane. They weren't exactly trying to hide the fact that they wanted a second Batman. But over time, Green Arrow became his own hero. He became less and less like Batman. He's kind of like a modern day Robin Hood, depending on who's writing for him. They gave him an amazing origin story about being trapped on an island and being forced to adapt and survive. He has a big personality, gets involved with politics. I mean, he became the mayor in the comics and the TV show, and is a really big family man. He has one of the most famous and long-lasting relationships in the comic world with Black Canary. He also became so popular that he started his own television universe, the Arrowverse. He may have been created to be like Batman, but now the Green Arrow stands strongly as his own hero.